And Sam, this week I'm going to lead off and get your take as an ex-player on player power, players getting their heads turned. His head's not right. I'm not in a fit state to play. And we're talking about Jonny Rowe of Norwich City. By the way, there's a poll in the live chat at the moment saying, should Jonny Rowe have started for Norwich at Oxford despite current transfer interest? 66% say he should have started. And 34%, higher than I thought it would be actually, given what I'm about to say, Sam, defend Jonny Rowe's decision if he didn't think he was right to not play. So, Sam, let me put this to you. And the problem I think for Jonny Rowe is we've also got the example set by Sammy Smodic on Friday night this week, where, first of all, I've got sympathy for players and I've got sympathy for managers that we have this ridiculous transfer window that goes 4 or 5 games into the season and agents and whatnot are talking whilst you're trying to prep for the new season and get started. I get that that's not ideal, and I felt so sorry for the new Norwich manager trying to deal with all of this moving parts, and essentially you're fixing the plane while it's already flying through the air. But from John Eustace's interview for Blackburn, my understanding is Sammy Smodic is being wrapped in cotton wool, and there's a collaborative thing between the two of them where, I'm going to bring you into it. Are you good? It's on you. You don't have to play. We're negotiating. If you're not right, don't play. But not only does Smodic come on, he scores and gets an assist and does his Superman act for Blackburn. Then the very next day, you've got Norwich with their new manager. And this idea of this lag in transition from Norwich, Sam, where I think we were saying they needed to be recycling the team last season and just kind of kept sticking with it, playoffs, and then got thrashed by Leeds. Gabriel Sara has gone, and then Jonny Rowe, we understand, on the morning of the game. So this is not, on Friday, Gaffer, I don't think I should travel. I don't want to get injured. My head's not in it, blah, blah, blah. This is the morning of the game. And I understand some Norwich fans being very angry about that. Due to Rowe's kind of lack of commitment. You're paid by the club. You haven't been sold. They haven't accepted a bid. Get out there. You're a star man. Go and win the game for your team and leave on a high if you are gonna leave. But I do understand, from the players' point of view, and they're young men living in a fantasy world, aren't they? Tell me, as a player, Sam, what's the right thing to do? You're at Oxford. You're being linked with Leeds and Marseille. You think you're going to go? Should you pull out and not play?
Everyone's different. Is the first thing I'd say. I'd be very surprised if this is the decision that has been made by the player alone. I think that's probably important to get out there. I'm not suggesting that this was a amicable decision between Rowe and Norwich. I think probably in certain cases, someone in the players' camp will be having a sway on this. My decisions often were probably based on what would my teammates, what would my mates think of me. And it takes a pretty single-minded character to make that decision off your own back and probably face the disappointment of your teammates when you have to return to the training ground inevitably in the days to come. So not ideal from a tactical standpoint, not ideal for the new manager having to change things around last minute, and not ideal that it doesn't look like this move is imminent. I mean, cue it going ahead this afternoon or whatever, but he's going to have to go and be around the players. So my way of doing it would have been to do what Sammy Smodic is doing. I mean, your confidence is going to be sky high for a start. Let's say that. I mean, Smodic and Rowe are both coming off unbelievable seasons, right? Smodic is taking to the field and knowing he's going to score. Jonathan Rowe should be able to go out there and be the catalyst for Norwich to get early season points. The one thing is, obviously, there is always a concern of injury. And I think if we're talking, Ben, about the last game of the season, I'd have more sympathy for the player right now. And I think in certain cases in my career, not that I was about to secure a multi-million pound move. But sometimes if you're moving on or you got other things going on, the manager may come to you and say, look, what are you thinking about the last game of the season? Do you want to be involved? Can I, I might play a young lad if there's nothing to play for. So I would understand it more if it was a kind of dead rubber at the end of the season. But yeah, disappointing, I think, to see that over the weekend, and thoroughly disappointing for the Norwich fans who have obviously only been treated really to one season from him. A top quality performer he was. I think the right way to go about it is to roll your sleeves up. Yes, you've got to look after yourself. You've got to be. You're not going to play with a niggle. You're not going to play if you've got a bit of tightness. If the move's on the cusp, but I think you do yourself a lot better by going out there and continue to perform for your employer.
100%. And in the game, pretty impressive by Oxford in the end. I know Norwich were very bad and disjointed, but Oxford were ready for them, Sam. I know you didn't see it. I looked at it on the watch along, and in the you can only beat what's put in front of you terms, we saw exactly what we saw. I think were you at the League One playoff final? Did you do that for TV?
No, I wasn't. I was at the first leg of the Oxford Posh. Yeah, Oxford Posh in the first leg where Peterborough changed to a degree their style. Really gave Oxford respect. Oxford had battered them, hadn't they? I think in a couple of months preceding that game. I backed. Like last week when we discussed it, I went for a Norwich win. I thought Oxford might start really fast and get that impetus from the opening day. But again, not to cover my own tracks, I think they've made some of the most eye-catching signings of the summer. Oxford, they have got a real momentum and feel good from the tail end of the last campaign. They've got a real clever, savvy manager. I probably
Sam,
would
that
question.
was what I was going to say. The similarities with the playoff final against Bolton, where they were up against a team who were going to try and play through the first, and kind of just sat and watched it, and then bam, in they went. So I think Oxford might be an annoying opponent for teams building from the back this season as well, mightn't they?
Yeah, and all the exciting kind of young players that they've brought in that have shown potential in League One and what have you. To bring someone like Will Vaulks in, to bring Phillips in, some real experienced guys as well, and to give Brannigan a bit of help in that midfield so he can get in the box. I like him when he's deep and he can get on the ball and he can be the starter of the moves because he's that gifted as a footballer. But to see him getting in the box, he could be a good shout for 8-10 goals for Oxford United this season, given he's on set pieces as well. So I think that's a really good bit of business. Important for the striker as well, because I think ultimately seasons are going to be defined somewhat by how many goals you can conjure as a promoted side. And I would absolutely question, are Oxford going to get enough goals? Are they going to have enough forward players to contribute in that regard for Harris to start, who gives you so much, without the ball, particularly because he's non-stop. For him to get a goal off the bat is really important. But yeah, I tip Norwich to win, but I'm not surprised if I can say that. And I think Oxford could be the ones to get a fast start. Listen, I'm not suggesting that they're going to stay in the division. I think it's going to be an incredible battle for them, and it probably go to the wire. And they would absolutely take one place outside the relegation zone now, I'm sure. But I wouldn't be surprised if in 3 months' time we're talking about them maybe accumulating the most points out of the promoted side.